Stanford is cracking down on misgendering and citing a Ben Shapiro event. Yes, they are they're saying, I don't know how they're going to do it, that they want to rid the college of people using the wrong pronouns. Listen, man, you can't do anything about this. And it's the weirdest fight, if you were to ask me. How do you force people to use the right pronouns? You literally can't. It's talking. Now, I get it. Some people don't say certain words like slurs, but hold on. We have to use pronouns in everyday language. Now, before we read this, okay, and I want to make I have a point to make. I want to say something about the singular pronoun they. A lot of people have been saying, if someone's gender neutral, you call them they, them. You call them they, them. Okay, I get it. They, them functions as a singular when we're referring to a person by a title or a position and we don't know their gender. Let's say I'll give you a couple examples. John entered the room. We know John is a male name. Most people would say John entered the room and he did a backflip. Perhaps, however, it's a foreign individual and John, it's actually a woman. Well, then you'd be corrected because you misgendered them. That we understand. Jane entered the room. She did a backflip, right? Okay. A doctor entered the room and they did a backflip. We would use they as a singular because we don't know the gender of the doctor and we all recognize that. We would actually use the plural syntax. I'm not a language expert, okay? We'll leave it there. But we would use the plural, they as a singular in a plural context. So a doctor entered the room, they are doing backflips, even though they are is typically saved for plurals, right? Here's where the problem arises. I was reading an article from Vice talking about World of Warcraft, and one of the individuals was gender neutral, but they were referring to a couple different people and then tried using a they as a singular, and it literally made no sense, and I was confused and had to try and understand it. Because when you say Sam and Pat, let me give you an example of how the pronouns thing doesn't make sense. Here we go. Sam and Pat want to go out on a date. Sam says they are not hungry. Pat says they are hungry. What does that mean? What did I just tell you? Okay, if you go to a regular person and say Pat says they are not hungry, that kind of sounds like you're saying both of them. You're referring to two people. I use Sam and Pat for a reason. And then Sam says they are not hungry, but Pat says they are. How can they have an argument about if the other is hungry or not? How would they know? Oh no, it's because they're gender neutral and we're using they in a gender neutral context, in which case they are saying that each individually one is and one isn't. You see how that doesn't work? It also doesn't work when you say something like John goes by the pronoun they and Sam goes by the pronoun he, and then you say they think that gender pronouns are appropriate. Okay, hold on. Are we talking about both of them now, or are we talking about one person? John uses the pronoun they. Sam uses the pronoun he. They think that gender-neutral pronouns are appropriate in college. Was I telling you that both think so? Or was I telling you that only John was because Sam goes by he? I don't know. That's the problem with language. Gender-neutral pronouns make sense when there is a singular in which we don't know the context. Now check this out. Daily Wire editor-in-chief Ben Shapiro visited the campus of Stanford University on the 7th to deliver a speech in which he exposed the dangerous game being played by the alt-right. Yeah, we get it. They say Shapiro has consistently pushed back against the policing of speech, ardently defending the First Amendment right to free speech against the left's disingenuous attacks on it via declarations of subjectively divined hate speech. Shapiro has also argued against the unconstitutional notion of forcing people to refer to others with their preferred gender pronouns. Guess what? You can't force me to use your name. Let's stop the pronoun thing real quick. Is there a rule anywhere saying I can't call you whatever I want? There is not. But for some reason, pronouns? So let's say your name is John and you go by the pronoun they. I can call you Florbo? Yup, nothing's stopping me from calling you whatever I want. Okay, then I won't use pronouns. I hereby decree I will no longer use pronouns, but I'm going to call you Florbo Floxenbox. I can call you whatever I want. I can call you a garden gnome. I can call you a flower. I can call you literally anything. There is nothing anywhere saying I have to use your name. I'm going to call you Squeaky Snowflake. I don't think it's an insult. Are you offended by it? Too bad. Like, listen, calling someone dumb, negative. You're saying they're not bright. Calling someone smart, positive, compliment. You're saying they're good at what they do. Says who, though? It's subjective, right? Therefore, I can call you Dumbo, and well, it's not a pronoun. It's just my nickname for you. Are they going to ban that? This doesn't make sense. It can't work. Let's read on. In a letter to the Stanford community sent on November 18th, Stanford Provost Persis Drell announced the university's new focus on promoting gender inclusion, in part by forbidding the use of incorrect pronouns. It is so insane. From now on, here's what I think people should do. Anybody who says that they have specific special pronouns, period, call them Florbos. Just Florbo. And I'll tell you what. You know why? Because we don't know the pronouns of every person. And if we always enter a conversation using assumed pronouns, we're likely to end up offending people. I propose the word Florbo for anybody who may not prescribe to traditional English language, because pronouns don't exist in every language. Therefore, Florbo. If someone says my pronoun is Z or Zer, I will say Florbo. I will call you Florbo. That way everyone's happy, right? So I'm not going to misgender you. Florbo just means gender neutral name. And it's not a pronoun either. It's a proper noun. A Florbo is a specific type of special person. I am here's a letter. I am writing today about a dimension of diversity that is still too often overlooked and that needs to be, you know what, let me stop. We get it. She says, who makes the point of specifying in the letter that she personally prefers the pronouns she, her. At the national level, we have seen protections for gender inclusion rolled back. For example, a few weeks ago, a federal judge vacated a portion of a federal regulation protecting transgender individuals from discrimination in certain healthcare settings. While at Stanford, our non-discrimination policy protects gender identity and gender expression, students, staff, and alumni have made it clear to me that we have much more work to make Stanford fully gender inclusive. Okay, a couple points. If they're going to specifically say gender pronouns are gendered, then you simply need only call them a Florbo, because Florbo is not gendered. It's just a nickname. It's just a person who prefers, I'll tell you what, Florbo has no gender. Florbo has no gender. But Florbo refers to people who don't use traditional pronouns. Therefore, anybody who has a specific pronoun can be called a Florbo, and it's not an insult. It's literally a random word I made up. And my compromise is this. If someone doesn't want to call you a pronoun that you want them to call you, everybody can just agree on a random word, right? You might say Z or Zer. Well, let's say I don't agree with your worldview. Call them a Florbo. A Florbo is not gendered. A Florbo is a person who doesn't prescribe to using pronouns. There you can say Florbo. Florbo said it. Florbo wants to know if you want to go, buy some turkey for Thanksgiving. There you go. Here's the other thing. Look, man, if they want to make it a rule that people have to use a pronoun and you disagree with this, I mean, the answer is simple. Make up your own pronoun. I know people have made jokes about it, fine, but I mean, seriously, why not just make up your own pronoun? Drell explains that she has met with transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary members of the Stanford TGNC, there's a new thing for it, members of the Stanford community, and has decided that some major changes are in order to crack down on misgendering and prejudice. So let me make sure this is clear. I am not trying to be disrespectful in any way. If somebody, because I'll tell you what, there are people who would insult the individual who wants to use a gender-neutral pronoun. And I think that's wrong. You treat people with respect, but respect is earned, not given. If someone comes up to you and makes a demand of you and you don't want to use a pronoun, you don't want to speak a certain thing, the first thing you do is just use their name. That's it. End of story. And if you don't want to use their name and you don't want to insult them, use your own word. And if you think people are being absurd and they're trying to exert force over you, then you too can make up your own pronoun and they must adhere to it. This is the big problem with rules like this. If you're saying anyone can use any pronoun, then I can make a list of 800 pronouns. Also, you need to understand in what context are pronouns used. When would someone say he, him, Tim, Tims, etc.? You could make up a series of pronouns for different syntax and different circumstances that don't exist outside the norm. Oh, you could only say my proper name on the third instance because pronouns typically are used in the sentence following a proper noun. But because, you see what the point is? Who defines how language functions? In reality, language functions as a tool to convey ideas, and it changes over time. They are now trying to force made-up words and new words into the language that people are not familiar with. I propose a solution. Florbo. There you go. Am I done? This is so dumb. Yeah, I'm going to keep this one short. I'm going to wrap it up here. You get the point. I will come back to, just very quickly, I'll wrap it up with a couple points. Look, you can't police speech. It won't work. Especially in this thing. You can tell someone you can't say a slur, but that's because slurs are not necessary to convey an idea. Pronouns are. Let me leave you with that specific example once again, so you can explain to someone. If someone says to you, just say they, them, because it's singular, say, okay, Jack and Ted go by different pronouns. Jack prefers they, Ted prefers he. They think that using gender-specific pronouns is appropriate in a college setting. Now, I'm asking you, did you learn anything from that? Let me put it another way. Jack and Ted believe, both go by he. And he thinks that yada yada. You get the point. I'm done. This is so dumb. I can't believe it. Whatever. Floorbo. There you go. That's your word. I'm not kidding when I say I'm going to use that. I'm being absolutely serious. Because if you want me to use a word that you made up, and you don't want me to use a word that exists, the compromise is I'll make up a word to use for everybody. Are we done? Okay, I'll see you all in the next segment coming up in just a few minutes.